My name is Rick Petherbridge, and I'm here to talk tennis. And today we're going to focus on some of the issues that come up in USTA league tennis, and particularly playing in pressure matches, going to sectionals, going to nationals. And today I have a guest with me. Today, Art Chen, who has played a lot of USTA tennis. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and just give you a little idea about his background and, playing a lot of league matches. Go ahead, Art.
Lifelong tennis player. I love the game. I'm up 60 years old, but I've been playing since I was 15. And live out here in South Pasadena, married. I'm an aerospace worker over at Boeing and Satellite Division in El Segundo. And I play senior tournaments, and I've also play a USTA league. So all the way back from like the mid 80s. So there's a lot of time. And fortunately, I've had a lot of opportunities to go to sectionals and nationals, and hopefully I can share some of my experiences with you guys.
But let's give our viewers an idea of how many times you've been to nationals, and if you've won nationals, and if you can remember how many times you've been to sectionals. You've probably been a lot.
Wow. I probably don't know how many times, but let me think back. So in I think the first time I've won nationals was in 1990. We were on a men's 4.5, 18 and over team, and we won the national championship at Tucson. I was also on a 9-0 mixed doubles team like 2 years later. And I think we got like, we didn't win, but we were there at nationals. I went back a couple of years later, and in the 50 and over, when they had the 50 and over division, we won the national championship also. That was 4 or 5 50 and over. That was in Indian Wells. We also, back in the early 2000s, when they had the tri-level, we were also in the desert, and we won the national championship. That was a 3-5, 4-0, 4-5 line. And then I went in the 55 and over 8-0 with Aldo, and we did pretty well. We almost made it, I think, fifth or sixth place. The following year, I went for the 9-0 55 and over, and also got like fourth or fifth place. And then most recently in the tri-level 55 and over, we won the national championship last year. And we're going in the tri-level again, but this is the open division, 18 and over, 3-5, 4-0, 4-5. We're actually going in March. So we have another opportunity to play. So a lot of the experiences and sectionals. I've gone to sectionals countless times. So that's all.
Great. And I think it just helps our viewers know, you're somebody that's done this a lot, and, you have a lot of experience. And because you have that experience, you can share a lot of, the information that you've learned. I'm 66 years old, started playing USTA tennis in like 2000. I went to nationals for the first time in 2004. It was mixed doubles. It was held in Minnesota, and I was very much humbled. I lost every match that I played that 3-day weekend, right? And, I went in there, first time going to nationals, thinking I'm a pretty good player. And like I said, I came back humbled, but I also came back motivated. And I, understood that I needed to take my game up a notch. I needed to work on a variety of skills if I was going to succeed at the national level, because it's just, you might be a good league player. You might have done really well in sectionals, but when you get to nationals, it's a different caliber. And then About 7 years later, I had the opportunity to go to nationals and world team tennis. We played our final at Indian Wells, which was a big thrill for me. And then I ended up winning nationals 3 years in a row at world team tennis. Each of those competitions were at Indian Wells. And it's still, one of the bigger thrills of my life, just being able to play on that court. I go to Indian Wells every year and watch the pros play, right? And to be on that court and to be able to win nationals, to have my picture taken with Billie Jean King, who had her picture taken with every team that won nationals. It was a big thrill. And so just a little bit about our background, so that when we're talking about these things, our viewers know that it's not something that we're speculating about. We've all done this a bunch of times. Also been to sectionals well over 30 times, too many to count. And I'll say this, in my experience, there's a big difference between sectionals and nationals, right? The level of competition is big. Okay, enough about us. We're going to move on to the issues that we want to discuss. And the first one I want to bring up is what even a professional, right, has experienced that feeling. It's a big match. It's a close match. A bunch of your teammates are watching. Maybe the outcome of whether you win nationals or you win sectionals is on this. And let's talk about handling those moments, right? Because there's a lot going on, right? First of all, there's the mental component, right? How do you deal with the stress? How do you maintain your focus? How do you not get too passive, too aggressive? And there's also the sort of the tennis or the physical component about, what you can do those moments to sort of maximize your success. So I'm going to start off and turn this over to Art and ask you, right? You've been in this situation a lot of times. You're in a big match. It's a sectionals, it's a nationals match. Your opponents are really good. You're feeling the pressure of a really close match with a lot at stake. How do you handle that moment, Art?
Great question. I mean, that's what we all strive for as tennis players, is being able to put ourselves in those situations, in those moments. That's what I play for action. Actually, that's probably the first thing I'll say is that what I try to do is I try to embrace that moment. I actually look forward to say, hey, put the pressure on me. I want to be in the big match. I want to be able to come through for our team in those big moments. So the first thing is your attitude. I think having the perception and the mindset that you want to be there. This is the moment that you've been training for. This is the moment that you can make a difference. And if you have that positive mindset that you want to be there, you want to be in that moment, I think that really helps a lot. So that's the first thing that I try to do is seize that moment and be extremely positive. So the next thing I'll say is the level of intensity that you have. You're going to be thinking of a lot of things. And what happens you win, what happens you lose, all the dynamics of everything going around you, and you got to block it all out. If you got too many things in your head, it's just gonna really affect your tennis. So being able to, I'll call it, be in the zone, and it's just you and the ball. You can't control what your opponent does, but you can control what you do. And what I like to do is just singularly focus on just a couple things. So the first thing I like to do is just say, when you look at, people tell you to watch the ball, but how many people how intensely you watch the ball and focus on it is quite different. So in those kind of situations, I just laser focus on watching the ball really carefully. The next thing I do is what I'll call grip pressure. That's the, you know, that has to do with how tightly you grip your tennis racket. So if I kind of 1 to 10 scale, I'll purposely tell myself, hold it like a 3 or 4. Hold it like a 3 or 4, and just stay relaxed. And then the next thing I think about is, you know, it's all about serve and return to serve. So when I'm out there, I'm not going after big first serves. I'm going after consistent 75% placement depth on my serve. And I know everybody feels anxiety. So the more pressure you can put on just by getting a good consistent serve in, I mean, that's going to pay off dividends. If you're going to miss a lot of first serves and then you get nervous, and then you end up thinking about that second serve and pushing it, that's when you get in a lot of trouble. So the way to stay out of that is spin your first serve in hard and go for high percentage. Don't go for the big serve. Similar to return. You know, you gotta think just a very few things. The guys could be thinking about poaching or doing this or that, and you have to block all that out of your mind and just say, okay, I'm going to go for my target. And what I like to do is I like to think about my point of contact. You know, you really need to extend in your point of contact and your footwork and your grip pressure. Just a couple few things, and you focus on them, and then you just let it go. And that just those aspects, because especially at our level in competitive league tennis, it's the points usually won in the first 2 or 3 shots. You know, first serve, double fault, return, maybe one more shot, 2 shots. So if you can get that first serve in, you get a first return in, and take the offensive, that's going to make a huge difference. So those are just a couple of my suggestions.
Those are great suggestions, Art. I agree with all of them. I'm going to just add a little bit. And I think every player is a little bit different in this regard. Like, you know, what we do in these big moments, what helps us focus, or what helps calm us down, or, you know, whatever motivates us, right? We're all sort of different. So one of the things that I try to do that helps me is in a really big match, at a really big moment, I start to not even think about the score, right? I try to just really like have this hyper focus where, okay, I'm going to win this point, right? And it's all about this point that I'm playing right now. And I really try to, you know, block out the idea that I'm in a set playing a match, right? It's this one point. That's all it is, right? And then after this point, it's the next point, right? So you try not to feel the pressure of, you know, we're down a break or whatever that situation is, because all you really have to do is win the point that you're in and then go to the next. So again, that's something that helps me. I think everybody's different about like what helps them in terms of focusing and getting the most out of their game. Another thing that I do sometimes is when I realize, like, you can sort of feel it, like your body starts to hum or buzz a little bit, and you feel the adrenaline flowing and you feel the moment. And when I feel like the moment is getting to me a little bit, I'll take a little pause, right? So for me, it helps to just take a couple of deep breaths. With doubles, it's nice to be able to go over to your partner and, you know, I'll tell them sometimes, hey, look, you know, we're not talking strategy. I'm just blanking out my mind right now with you because it's all about this next point, and that's all I want to think about, right? Um, but these are specific things that I've done in a match. My partner knows it. Sometimes like, they'll see me coming over. They know I don't want to talk strategy. I'm not telling them whether I'm serving up the tee or wide. I'm just giving myself a couple of deep breaths, and I'm actually trying, like you said, one of the dangers is you got all the stuff in your mind, right? Like the score, these guys are watching, it's so important. And what you really want to do is just focus on, I'm going to get that first serve in, or I'm going to make the return, right? And whatever you need to do to get yourself in the right headspace, that's where you got to be when the point starts. So these are like the mental components that I go through. Now, Art, you also mentioned some what I call more tennis components or physical components. Like, look, it's so important to get that first serve in, and I totally agree with you there. Another thing that I think about is, particularly when you feel yourself, when the moment is really stressful, right? It really helps if you can hit what I call, after your serve or after your return, you hit what I call rally balls. And that's where you don't get tentative, you don't slow down your racket. Maybe you add a little extra spin. So it's going to give you maybe a little more net clearance than you normally hit with. You're not trying to land the ball near the baseline. You're giving yourself sort of these big targets, but you're taking a full swing and you're feeling, that you're able to hit the ball pretty hard, but into safe targets, not close to the line, not close to the back line, not close to the sideline. And when I say a rally ball, it's something that I feel I can hit 5 of those without missing, right? You wake me up in the middle of the night. I'm not trying to hit the ball close to the baseline. I'm not trying to hit the ball close to the sideline. I'm just hitting a rally ball with lots of margin on it. And for me, that helps in these tense situations, because I don't want to slow down my racket head speed and I don't want to get tentative. And I remind myself I can take a big swing just as long as I do it in a really safe way. So these are some of the thoughts that I bring, that I try to remind myself. Art, anything else that comes to your mind about big moments and big matches? We talked about getting that first serve in. I agree with you there. We talked about making the return. Anything else that you want to add?
Sure. I mean, Ricky made some great comments. And what I'll add to what you just said there is a couple things. The first one, and then I see a lot of players do this, is you talked about anxiety. And what I like to encourage is the breathing. And I noticed a lot of players, including myself, when it gets really tight, we tend to hold our breath. You don't actually realize what you're doing, but you're actually holding your breath. And that is really bad. So you have to actually tell yourself to exhale as you hit the ball, and you need to consciously do that. And that will help. Really, it helped me a lot. Just exhaling as I hit the shots. Another thing that's a pretty common problem for recreational players, and I see it is the tenseness affects your footwork. So, people suddenly don't get loose on their feet anymore, and they basically are planted there. And you actually got to tell yourself, happy feet, stay in your toes, work on that movement. And I like what you said a little bit earlier about, the fact of I mentioned grip pressure, but you got to hit out. This is not the time to start pushing the ball. And you have to tell yourself to trust your stroke, extend your shots, and go for it. Go for what you're most comfortable doing. And now, if everything breaks down, you feel, oh, I can't move my feet. I'm late. I just can't do anything. Then you have to dig deep and figure out a way just to get the ball back in the court. So many times players just beat themselves and just start spraying the ball, and they just can't figure it out. And that happens to me. It happens to all of us. So you have to have a plan B. If something is not working well, you just can't figure it out. You said, okay, I got a lob, I got a moon ball, I got to do something. I got to do something different to be able to prolong the point. I'm telling you, I'm saying I'm not going to beat myself. That opponent's got to beat me. So you have to you have to be able to have a plan. If it's not working, you have to be able to adapt to the situation and make adjustments, whatever they may be. So those are some additional thoughts.
So a couple of things that you said, Art, really rang true for me. And so let me be specific. The grip, right? Absolutely, I have the same thing, right? So big match, lots of pressure. I'll notice that I'm gripping the racket really, really tightly. So one of the things that I do, just to sort of remind myself, is I start shaking out my hand. Just because, you know, if you want to have good racket speed, you can't have that death grip on your racket, right? And so for me, this, people see me do this. This is just me saying to myself, keep your hands loose, keep your hands relaxed. You want to have that really good wrist snap to give you the spin, and you're not going to have it if you've got a death grip on the racket. So that's one of the things that I do in that situation. So another thing that I wanted to bring up, still dealing with this situation that we're talking about, big moments, pressure matches. We've all, especially in doubles, we've all had this moment where we're actually playing well, but we notice our partner, right? They're the one that's feeling the tension and they're feeling the pressure. And I think it's really important. I've noticed this so much, right? If you have a really good doubles partner, right? You can just bring each other along. You can just lift each other up, right? And one of the great things about doubles is hopefully you're rarely going to have, you know, these moments simultaneously, right? So your partner can really be crucial to getting you through that moment. And one of the things that I always like to tell, so like big moment, big point, your partner misses a stroke that he would normally hit, right? And one of the things that I like to do to be able to go over to my partner and be able to tell them, one of the things I like to be able to say, good miss. So if someone hits out on the ball and they just miss it long by 2 inches and they're frustrated, go right over them, get right in their face and say, good miss, right? You caught that ball in the middle of your racket. You hit it right where you wanted to, right? Don't forget that you're frustrated that you missed that ball, but it was the right shot, right? And you didn't miss it by that much. So take the positive from it, right? Because there are good misses. Also, you got to be able to go to your partner and say sometimes, bad miss, right? So they're in position, whatever, maybe they're running for the ball, they're off balance, and they try to hit, you know, one of those shots that Gael Monfils would try to hit, right? Well, that's just such low percentage. You're off balance, you're stretched, and you go for a winner down the line, right? When you should have just put the ball back, right? And I always try to be able to make that point to my partner as well, right? Okay. You're frustrated that you missed, but it was a bad miss because you tried a shot that you shouldn't have tried. And if you would have tried something that was more, you know, easier shot, more defensive, more in your skill set, you would have made that shot, right? And it's just the kind of things that as a partner you can go over and you can kind of settle down your partner and they realize, right? Either. So anything like that, Art, that you do with your partner?
And when you're talking about doubles, there's a lot of, you brought up some great points about how to communicate with your partner and giving the feedback. So I'll say a couple things here. First off, you need to understand your partner and what works well for your partner and what doesn't work well. And everybody's different. So it's not a one size fits all formula. Some partners want feedback. You might want to make a suggestion, hey, do this differently or do that. And they actually are open to it. Other players aren't. Other players don't want you to say anything about, a suggestion on how you want to hit the ball or do this or do that. And they may take offense to it. Right. So I like to actually, if I've never played with somebody before, I actually like to start before we play the points. I ask them a few questions. Because, hey, we've never played before. What do you like to do? What are your tendencies? And would you like me to give you feedback, or would you not like feedback? Or I'll try to level set on what they tell me, because everybody's different. Your partner may have missed an easy shot, and you didn't say a single word, but you may have gotten a shrug in your shoulder or you looked up the wrong way. Your partner picks up on every little subtlety. So one really key advice is if my partner, shrugged his shoulders, oh God, how did he miss that shot? Or I felt any body language that he looked frustrated or she looked frustrated, that would affect me negatively. So you have to be extremely careful and just be uplifting all the time. Zero negativity in your talk, zero negativity in your body language, and only positive reinforcement. I can't stress that enough. And I see other players when they'll look at their partner and they'll do a cue and you can see the emotion draining out of their face and the frustration building. So that is really important to me is the zero negativity. And like I mentioned earlier, if you got it, the go ahead from your partner that they're actually willing to receive constructive feedback, if there is a positioning mistake or a technique flaw or something very obvious that you didn't see them do and they were open to it, then I think doing that in a constructive way is meaningful, right? So doubles to me is all, I'll give you an example. Doubles to me is all about protecting the middle of the court. So many players, they say, oh, I just got to guard my alley. And everybody's guarding their alley and then the middle is wide open. And 80, 90% of the balls, especially the rec level, they go down the middle of the court. And you got to protect the middle of the court. And you got to be able to communicate with your partner and move it like a chain and be able to do that. Another thing is when you play doubles, and this is a strategy I'm going to be talking about, is you have to look at their tendencies. You have to see what your opponents are good at. And sometimes they'll have a hell of a good return. They'll just be nailing that cross-court return at their feet, and it's just like they can do it out all day long. So I'm not going to let them do that to me all day. I'm going to go to my partner and say, let's change our formation up. Let's try I formation or the Australian formation. Let's give them a different look. So we test and see, okay, well, he's proved to me he can hit cross court. Let's have him prove to me he can hit down the line. So I like to do a lot of things that try to make my opponent uncomfortable. I have to communicate my partner and figure out what makes them uncomfortable. A lot of times also people hug the net too tight, right? So I'll tell a conscious strategy, hey, did you realize he's, right on top of the net? Maybe we should lob and do this. And so we need to talk strategy, and we need to look at the tendencies of the other players and communicate. And so you've watched the pro tennis, they actually talk every single point. They may do hand signals for poaching or for where the direction of the first or second serve. And maybe that's too much, but I think it is good to talk almost all the time. I'm actually a proponent of using hand signals because it forces you to get out of your comfort zone. Just playing straight up and not moving it just it just makes your opponent very comfortable. So if you just play straight up, meaning you just don't move, you play very conventional doubles, one up, one back, then the returner basically just doesn't feel any pressure. They just feel like they can hit out. Your whole goal is to make the returner uncomfortable. So movement at the net is a way to do that. Whether you do the I formation, where you poach, whether you fake, I'm a firm believer in making just strategies that make your opponent uncomfortable.